Hello, aspiring artists and animators, and welcome to part 1 of my 5-part series on how to make an SFM poster. Now, if you're here, chances are you know that I make a lot of Splatoon posters. It's the most popular thing I do on this channel. So, I'm going to be using Splatoon as an example to show you step by step how I make a poster. The first thing you're going to want to do is open up Source Filmmaker. When you open up SFM, your window will look something like this. It's asking you to name your session. Your session is pretty much the file where your project is going to be stored. So we're going to name ours poster. Once you've named your session, look down and click Create. Welcome to SFM. Up here, you can see our primary viewport. This is where we'll be doing the majority of our work in a 3D space, posing, setting our lights, and setting our cameras. Just below it, you can see the timeline. This is used mainly in animation, so we won't be touching it much in this tutorial. If you go to these 3 boxes, you can switch between the timeline, the motion editor, and the graph editor. We're going to be doing all of our work in the motion editor, so make sure you're clicked on it whenever you want to adjust something. On the left here, we have the animation set editor. This is where we'll be selecting all of our models to edit them. This is also where we can see our lights and our cameras and our particles. Right next to the animation set editor, we have the element viewer. This is where we can look into models and we can change specific elements like colors. Now, before we get started, we have to have a map loaded. As you can see, by default, there is no map loaded for your project. To fix that, we need to right-click anywhere in the primary viewport and scroll down to Load Map. When you click on Load Map, a box will open up that looks like this. We're going to scroll down and we can pick between all of the different TF2 maps. We're going to use Foundry. So type in Foundry, if you can spell, and then click Open. Now that we've loaded into our map, we can look for where we want our poster to take place. To move around in the primary viewport, left click and hold and then drag your mouse to look around. Use the W, A, S, and D keys to move around in your 3D space. Be aware that you can clip through walls, so try not to get lost. Aim up to move up and down to move down. If you want to move directly up or down, you can press Z and X. So, as we look around, we can try to find where we want our character to stand. This looks like a pretty good spot. Whenever I am making a poster, the camera position is really never final until I near the end of the project. So for now, we can just kind of eyeball it and then set our main camera. If you look down here, you can see that we have the work camera currently selected. This is the camera we'll be using to move around our character and make sure he looks good. Click on the drop-down menu next to work camera and scroll down to change scene camera. Now click new camera. As you can see, we've now switched to camera 1. Click on the camera button to switch to your work camera, and you can see these wireframe lines that depict where camera 1 is. Camera 1 is where we'll be seeing our poster from, and eventually where we'll export it from. Click again to switch back to camera 1. As you can see, we can move it around and see that it also moves. So for now, we can just eyeball where we want our scene to be. That looks pretty good. Now that we have 2 cameras, it'd probably be helpful to be able to see them both at the same time. To do this, go up to the Windows tab on the left corner of the screen. Go down to Secondary Viewport. Now we have 2 viewports where we can see both of our cameras from. Click and drag on the Secondary Viewport tab. Now you can see all of the places where we can place the viewport. Go to the left square, and then the bottommost. Drag the top of the viewport up and down to adjust our view. Now our primary viewport can show either the work camera or camera 1. And our secondary viewport can always show camera 1, so we can check on our poster at any time. Remember that saving frequently is very important when working on a project. SFM can be an unstable program sometimes and tends to crash when we least expect it. To save, go up to File in the top left corner, click on it and go down to Save. If you want to use the keyboard shortcut, you can just press Ctrl and S for an easy quick save. Let's review what we've learned today. We've learned about how to create a session. We've learned about the primary viewport, where we do all of our work in 3D. We've learned about the timeline, the motion editor, and the graph editor. We also learned about the animation set editor, where we can keep track of our models, lights, cameras, and particles. We learned about the element viewer, where we'll be able to take an in-depth look at our models and change things like hair color. We also learned how to create a new camera, switch between the two of them, position cameras, and create a secondary viewport so we can check on our poster anytime we want. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something on this episode. Stay tuned for next time, where we learn about how to download add-ons from the workshop and import models from Gary's Mod.